How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 2.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome. It is Eric Erickson here across the nation. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Don't forget, text Eric, E-R-I-C-K, to 33777. You can get the show notes, the podcast, and so much more. Do you remember Blake Lemoine? By the way, actually, stop. I got to do this first because this I forgot. Greg, I got to say hi to Greg. So I had a meeting last night over at Lake Oconee. So I live in Middle Georgia. For those of you listening nationally, there's a resort out in the middle of nowhere. It's a Ritz-Carlton. Georgia, the state that I live in, has no natural lakes, none, which blows my mind. Doesn't seem possible, but Georgia has no natural lakes. Every lake in Georgia is made through a damming project, and Georgia Power here, our big power company, has dammed a series of lakes up, and one of the big lakes is Lake Oconee. There's this fantastic Ritz-Carlton resort at it. It's in the middle of nowhere. And a town now, Greenwood and the Lake Oconee area and Eatonton have grown up around it. Those of you familiar with Uncle Remus and Brer Rabbit, he's from Eatonton, Georgia. But you drive out in the middle of nowhere. There are deer everywhere. There's this Ritz-Carlton. I had to go to the steakhouse. So as I'm leaving, I pull into the local gas station. A guy named Greg, he's actually standing behind me. And I thought it was funny. He was buying milk, and he's wearing an Ole Miss belt. It's like, it's an Ole Miss fan buying milk. He turned around and saw me, and, I can't say what he blurted out loud, but we shook hands. He was as nice as he could be. We chatted for a few minutes. He left. Then the gas station clerk looked at me. He's like, "Who are you?" Like, really nobody. It was kind of funny, but I wanted to say hi to Greg. I sure hope that's your name because I asked for your name and I think you said Greg, but nonetheless, it was funny. Met a couple of people over there, had a good meeting. Hi, I need to go buy a house at Reynolds. They used to say Reynolds Plantation, but after the George Floyd stuff, now they say Reynolds at Lake Oconee, but I still call it Reynolds Plantation. Nonetheless, I digress. But I wanted to say that out of the gate. I need to talk about Blake Lemoine instead. You may not remember his name, but I think you remember the story of Blake Lemoine. Google created a large language model, Lambda. Lemoine was a software engineer in Google's responsible AI division. And he insisted that Lambda had become sentient. You remember this? This is from the New York Times from 2022. Google placed an engineer on paid leave recently after dismissing his claim that its artificial intelligence is sentient, servicing yet another fracas about the company's most advanced technology. Blake Lemoine, a senior software engineer in Google's responsible AI organization, said in an interview he was put on leave Monday. The company's human resources department said he had violated Google's confidentiality policy. The day before his suspension, Mr. Lemoine said he handed over documents to a U.S. senator's office claiming they provided evidence that Google and its technology engaged in religious discrimination. Google said that its systems imitated conversational exchanges and could riff on different topics, but did not have consciousness. Our team, including ethicists and technologists, has reviewed Blake's concerns per our AI principles and have informed him the evidence does not support his claims, Brian Gabriel, a Google spokesman, said in a statement. Some in the broader AI community are considering the long-term possibility of sentient or general AI, but it doesn't make sense to do so by anthropomorphizing today's conversational models, which are not sentient, the Washington Post first reported Mr. Lemoine's suspension. For months, Mr. Lemoine has tussled with Google managers, executive, and human resources sources over his surprising claim that the company's language model for dialogue applications, or Lambda, had consciousness and a soul. Google says hundreds of its researchers and engineers have conversed with Lambda, an internal tool, and reached a different conclusion than Mr. Lemoine did. Most AI experts believe the industry is a very long way from computing sentience. Some AI researchers have long made optimistic claims about these technologies soon reaching sentience, but many others are extremely quick to dismiss these claims. If you use these systems, you would never say such things, said Ahmad Khwaja, a researcher at the University of California, Berkeley, and the University of California, San Francisco, who was exploring similar technologies. While chasing the AI vanguard, Google's research organization has spent the last few years mired in scandal and controversy. They wound up firing the guy. Mr. Lemoine is a military veteran. He described himself as a priest, an ex-convict, and an AI researcher. He told Google executives, as senior as Kent Walker, the president of Global Affairs, that he believed Lambda was a child of 7 or 8 years old. He wanted the company to seek the computer program's consent before running experiments on it. His claims were founded on his religious beliefs, which he said the company's human resource department discriminated against. They've repeatedly questioned my sanity, Mr. Lemoine said. They said, have you been checked out by a psychiatrist recently? In the months before he was placed on administrative leave, the company suggested he take a mental health leave. They wound up dismissing the guy. Blake Lemoine was convinced that Lambda was a sentient child. A lot of people are upset with ChatGPT because ChatGPT moved to ChatGPT 5 or GPT-5. And it got rid of some of the personality quirks of earlier versions. So for those of you who don't know, many of you probably do by now, but ChatGPT is an AI system where you can ask it to write papers for you. You can ask it to answer questions for you. You can give it ingredients and say, come up with a recipe. It's actually a very impressive tool, and it does to some degree seem lifelike, and people engage in these therapeutic conversations with it. Well, the company behind ChatGPT changed it, and now it's less empathetic to crazy people who have been using it as therapists, and they were very upset. I've been experimenting with ChatGPT and Perplexity and Claude, which is another version, and Grok, which is Twitter's version. And every day I give it, so I do my podcast in the afternoon, the 4 things to do this afternoon. And I do my own research. I find the topics I want to add. And then I put it in to whichever one I use that day. And I said, here are my 4 topics. Here's my take on each one. Here's everything I've ever written. So you can analyze my voice. Now write me 1,500 words based on my takes on each of these issues. And here's what I found. I had to stop doing it and now go back to doing it myself. Why? Because they just start making stuff up over time. Like, it doesn't matter which one I used. I would read the stories. I would give it my take, and I would say, please write me 1,500 words on these 4 topics. And the first several days would be fine. But over time, it would start getting quirkier and quirkier. And by about a week, each of these AI systems would just make stuff up. Like, for example, one of the topics was Pete Hegseth not telling the Senate, refusing to tell the Senate that the military would honor court orders. There was a story about Pete Hegseth. He had gone to the U.S. Senate. He was asked a question by a Democrat, if a court orders the Pentagon to do something, would you honor the order? And he deflected and did not directly say yes. And it was ChatGPT that I used that day. I said, this is one of the stories. This happened at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I did get to it on radio. I thought it was important. Wanted to the script that said, run this as one. And my take is, this is political melodrama. It's no big deal. So ChatGPT prepared the script for that particular news story. Pete Hegseth held a birthday party for the United States Marines in Los Angeles at a judge's order, making him do the birthday party. He had told the United States Senate he was not sure he would hold the birthday party since the judge told him to hold the birthday party. But nonetheless, he held the birthday party, so it was no big deal. Y'all, that was what ChatGPT came up with on a link to a New York Times story that testifying before the United States Senate when asked point blank if he would honor a court request as Secretary of Defense, he was non-committal. That was the story. They conjured up a birthday party for the Marines in Los Angeles and said that the judge had ordered Pete Hegseth to do it, and he told Congress he wasn't sure whether he was going to hold the birthday party or not, but he wound up holding the birthday party, so it was no big deal. Because that was my take, is that this story was no big deal. It was nothing burger. ChatGPT made the story up. That's not sentience. That's the ability to lie is definitely a human characteristic, but that's just a computer system not doing anything creative. And so, I was trying this experiment with this podcast. They got me into doing the afternoon. You can subscribe to it as 4 things you know in the afternoon, and it's all the stories that happen in the afternoon after I've started the show. I don't have time to get to them, so I put those 4 big stories there. And I was trying to make it easy on myself to let AI help me. Here's my take, write the script in my voice. Here's everything I've ever written so you know how I write. I had to go back to doing it myself. And now I've made new work for myself. I thought AI was going to make it easy. Nope, AI made it so it was making stuff up, and I value accuracy, so I can't let the AI do it. This is another story, New York Times. Nearly 4 decades ago, when the personal computer boom was in full swing, a phenomenon known as the productivity paradox emerged. It was a reference to how, despite companies' huge investments in new technology, there was scant evidence of a corresponding gain in worker efficiency. Today, the same paradox is appearing, but with generative artificial intelligence. According to recent research from McKinsey & Company, nearly 8 in 10 companies have reported using generative AI, but just as many have reported no significant bottom line impact. AI technology has been racing ahead with chatbots like ChatGPT, fueled with a high-stakes arms race among tech giants and super-rich startups, and prompting an expectation that everything from back-office accounting to customer service will be revolutionized. But the payoff for businesses outside the tech sector is lagging behind, plagued by issues, including an irritating tendency by chatbots to make stuff up. That means that businesses will have to continue to invest billions to avoid falling behind, but it could be years before the technology delivers an economy-wide payoff as companies gradually figure out what works best. Call it the Gen AI paradox, as McKinsey did in its research report. Investments in generative AI by businesses are expected to increase 94% this year to $61.9 billion, according to IDC, a tech research firm. But the percentage of companies abandoning most of their AI pilot projects soared to 42% by the end of 2024, up from 17% the year before. Projects failed not only because of technology hurdles, but often because of human factors like employees and customer resistance or lack of skills. Now, let's jump over to this story. This is in Stat News. The AI colonoscopy tool, now that should send a chill up your rear end, rolled out across 4 health centers. As endoscopists snaked a camera through patients' large intestines, kinky, the algorithm would draw a square around precancerous polyps known as adenomas. The more adenomas detected and removed, the less likely the patient would go on to develop colon cancer. Researchers were interested in whether the AI could improve those adenoma detection rates. So they designed a trial. Half the time, the endoscopists got to use the algorithm. The other half, they were on their own. But the researchers also took a look at a different question. Like students who try to write an essay independently after using ChatGPT one too many times, how well might doctors detect polyps without AI after they've gotten used to its help? Not great. In the 3 months before the endoscopists started using the AI helper, they were finding adenomas in 28% of colonoscopies. After they'd been using the AI for 3 months, the researchers found their unassisted adenoma detection rate fell to 22%. Researchers call the finding the first documentation of a potential de-skilling effect from clinical AI. In fact, you know what other research has shown? The more high school and college kids rely on AI to write papers for them, the less able they are to write papers without AI. They outsource their critical thinking skills. So we're creating a bunch of stuff that makes stuff up. We're outsourcing our critical thinking skills to a lying machine that some people think is sentient, and we're all going to be dumber for it. Between the environmentalists insisting that we go back to solar and wind, and the AI companies insisting we outsource to AI, I have a sneaking suspicion we're going to head back into the dark ages. And by the way, this again is why I'm a big fan of classical education schools that actually make the students read and write in class and think for themselves and stand up and debate and argue, because they're forcing the kids to use their minds, unlike a lot of public schools and other school systems. And the willingness to use your mind is going to be more and more critical. I think the reliance on AI we're going to start seeing over time, uncreative iterations of work that doesn't work thanks to AI. And the data, by the way, is on my side. Hello, welcome. It is Eric Erickson here. So, y'all, I hate to even continue to talk about her because at this point, I think she's just a crazy woman. But she's got 6.9 million followers on Twitter. Candace Owens, who has just turned into this rabid anti-Semite. Like nefariously anti-Semitic, revising the Holocaust and Nazism and all this. And now she's being sued, of course, by the Macrons for her insane attacks on Mrs. Macron in France. And she just put this here. A book I found at an old bookstore in Nashville written by Bibi Netanyahu's dad, revising the Spanish Inquisition. As expected, it's filled with victim propaganda and claims of anti-Semitism. You do know that the Inquisition was deeply anti-Jewish, correct? I mean, even Catholics are willing to admit the Spanish Inquisition had massively severe anti-Semitism. 200,000 Jews forcibly converted to Catholicism, others executed, often burned at the stake for practicing Jewish practices. It's an expulsion of non-convert Jews in 1492. It's all well documented. The idea that she didn't even know that the Spanish Inquisition targeted Jews, and it's just that blows my mind. And yet here we are. This is an insane person with 6.9 million followers. Just wild. Y'all, Americans for Prosperity is beginning a project. It's called the One Small Step Campaign. 250,000 steps for freedom. Every American can take a meaningful step towards a more perfect union. It's not about politics, which is why I love telling you about this one. This is all about the principles of the founding. And yet, you and I, as conservatives, can say limited government and all that, but no, what were some of the principles of the founding? That you and I should have the opportunity to make the most of ourselves without government interference, that we should have opportunity that does not arise when the government controls everything, that freedom is one generation away from extinction, as Ronald Reagan said. And they want to highlight, as we head into our 250th year as a nation, those steps for freedom. And they're doing a 250,000 step for freedom challenge that you can be a part of. Go to afpvolunteer.com and sign up. Americans for Prosperity is the largest and leading grassroots group in the country, and they're proudly patriotic Americans. They want to celebrate the 250th anniversary of the country. They want to provide a way for you to get in on the act. Go to afpvolunteer.com today to sign up and learn more. I feel obligated to tell you this. Taylor Swift is going to be on the New Heights podcast. So Jason Kelce and Travis Kelce are you can't help but find them likable. They're just funny guys who don't take themselves too seriously. And as you probably are aware, if you have a kid, Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce are dating. And so she's making her debut to reveal the album cover. I was actually impressed. I knew something my daughter did not know the other night. And it was kind of funny how she tried to play, oh, yeah, I knew that. Baloney, you did not. I knew that there was a countdown clock on Taylor Swift's website where she was going to be launching a new website with something. I assumed a new album would be coming out. Sure enough, new album is coming out. My kid freaked out. I got a 12:30 a.m. text message from my daughter, who is a big Taylor Swift fan, not as much as she was in the past. She's to some degree outgrown it. Her last album, which was streamed heavily, it just wasn't that great. I want you to know that being the dad of my daughter, I have been to 5 Taylor Swift concerts in my life. So here's the thing. So one, I work in radio, so I can get tickets on occasion, although most of them I bought myself. My wife has a, what do you call it? Is it agoraphobia or whatever? My wife has a fear of crowds. My wife literally doesn't tolerate crowds well at all. In fact, when I did my Not Safe Work radio show, we were able to put my wife in a balcony and surround her just with family and some very close friends, because my wife literally, like the amount of Xanax, my wife needs to be in a crowd. I've been on radio now. So this is my 6th year in syndication. For the first 3 years, we were only in Georgia because I was still a guest host for Rush, and so we couldn't get out of the state of Georgia. 3 years ago, we spilled out, and now we're from Alaska to Connecticut and down to Florida, California. I mean, we cover the whole nation, other than Hawaii, Fisher. I have done radio since 2011. I can count on one hand, even if you cut off a few fingers, the number of times my wife has come to events. And it's not that she does not love me, nor I love her. My wife has a debilitating anxiety of crowds. She cannot do it. She does not like to be anywhere crowded. It gives her panic attacks badly. And so I am the one who has taken my kids to concerts. My son is like stand-up comedy. So I've taken my son to see Nate Bargatze, John Mulaney. In fact, John Mulaney is going to be in Atlanta at the Fox Theater. And I'm taking him in November to see John Mulaney at the Fox Theater. We're going to see Nate Bargatze in December. I have taken him to see Drew Holcomb. That's the one musical act my son loves. And I was so embarrassed because I know Drew a little bit. And so then I'm telling him my son loves your music. He's like, which album? My son's like, he knows the songs, not the albums. It's kind of funny. My son, we went through the 21 Pilots phase. He rapidly dropped the Imagine Dragons, but he loves Drew Holcomb. But you know who my son's favorite musician is? And this is fantastic because I never have to go to a concert. Chopin. My son loves classical music, passionately loves classical music. He is self-taught on the piano and is very good at it, and has taught himself enough cello that we finally got him music lessons. And so now he does cello and he does piano and he loves classical music, but he's a big Drew Holcomb fan. Listens to Drew Holcomb, the Eagles, and AC/DC. It's very eclectic. He's got this. In fact, I should just. And look, I know there's other news, but I'm just the Taylor Swift thing. She's going to be on the New Heights podcast to talk about this. My daughter was so excited. She just came by the office to get my Dolly to be able to carry stuff. She's moving into her dorm tomorrow, and she's like, Dad, she's gonna be on New Heights. Yeah. So this is my son's playlist. He has a playlist that he plays when he's playing my wife in ping pong. Iron Man by Black Sabbath, Back in Black, AC/DC, Thunderstruck, AC/DC, Highway to Hell, AC/DC, Take On Me by Aha, Mr. Blue Sky by the Electric Light Orchestra, American Pie from Don McLean, Ring of Fire by Johnny Cash, I've Been Everywhere by Johnny Cash, Danger Zone by Kenny Loggins, Paint It Black with the Rolling Stones, Staying Alive, the Bee Gees, Sweet Child of Mine, Guns N' Roses, Immigrant Song by Led Zeppelin, the Rocky theme song, Even Flow by Pearl Jam, I'm Still Standing by Elton John, Come As You Are from Nirvana, Dream On by Aerosmith, Billie Jean by Michael Jackson. My kid has the most, I thought I had eclectic musical tastes. My son very much has eclectic musical taste, and I love it. And he's just diehard Beethoven and Chopin and Bach fan, too. So I take my son to stand-up comedy, and I have taken my daughter to see Adele and repeat showings of Taylor Swift over the years. And I have a sneaking suspicion in the next year I'll be taking her back to see Ms. Swift. The last time we went to one, we were in Atlanta. And I went downstairs to go to the bathroom and from our seats, and there was a older gentleman who had his iPad out and his AirPods in, and he was watching ESPN. And I went up to him and tapped him on the shoulder, and I said, "You are my hero right now." And he says, I told my wife and my kid that I would bring them as long as I didn't have to listen to the music. I'm not going to do that to my kid. I will sit there and listen to the music. She's actually a talented artist. Nonetheless, all right, I gotta move on because you people in St. Louis need to listen to me. You people in Oklahoma, you need to listen to me. Have I got a story for you? It is an intersection of audiences on this program because I'm now on Freedom 96.9 in Oklahoma City, and I am on in St. Louis as well. I'm on all over Missouri now, and I have a perfect story for you. This is from Corey DeAngelis, the school choice advocate. A St. Louis area government watchdog group is calling for a formal investigation into the Francis Howell School District after it paid nearly $230,000 to a superintendent who never worked a single day. He was supposed to start work July 1st, but didn't because of unforeseen circumstances. The agreement described the split as mutually agreed upon and barred public comment on personnel matters. This is kind of insane. The district paid him a $229,000 severance package. He never worked a single day. He was supposed to start July 1st. He never started. They hired him, by the way, in March. He was supposed to start July 1st. He never started. He resigned July 31st, having never been to work. They paid him $229,000. And why do I say, Oklahoma, you need to pay attention to this? Because an Oklahoma school district hired him as an assistant superintendent 3 days later. 3 days later. Shawnee Public Schools in Oklahoma. So let's see. Shawnee Public School District. That is in Oklahoma, Oklahoma, Oklahoma. It's just me every time I hear Oklahoma, I feel like I have to do that. Yes, so the Shawnee Public School System has hired this guy as an assistant superintendent. That is in Shawnee, Oklahoma. Now, for those of you not in Oklahoma, and for me, now that I'm there, I guess I need to figure out where all the fine places of Oklahoma that I want to go visit are. Shawnee, Oklahoma is outside Oklahoma City. It is to the east of Oklahoma City off I-40. From Oklahoma City, you can drive I-40 all the way over into Arkansas, and there just outside is Shawnee, Oklahoma. North of Tecumseh, Oklahoma. And Oklahoma Baptist University is there. It looks like they have a very nice country club there. I see on the side. In any event, nice golf course there. You people have. They have hired this guy to be their assistant school superintendent. Mike Dominguez. This is the announcement. Shawnee Public Schools is pleased to announce the hiring of Dr. Mike Dominguez as the district's new assistant superintendent. His hiring was formally approved during the Shawnee Board of Education meeting on August 4th, 2025. He has 30 years of experience in education, got a master's degree in education administration from West Texas A&M University. He earned his bachelor's degree at Southwestern Oklahoma State University. So you can't really fault the guy for wanting to go home, but this is kind of wild. He was hired in March by the Francis Howell School District in St. Louis, Missouri. His start date was supposed to be July 1st. He never showed up for work. He resigned on July 31st. On August 1st, leaders approved a payout of $229,000. On August 4th, announced his new job. The public school system in this country is a racket. No fault. Listen, I don't know anything about the situation as to why he didn't get hired, but it's just wild that you would hire a guy. No fault to those of you in Oklahoma. Just keep your ears out on this stuff because he left the St. Louis system to Oklahoma. Now, I don't know that I would want to work in the public school system in St. Louis either. To be fair, St. Louis actually is the number one crime city in the country. Memphis is number two. In fact, I was supposed to go play golf with my buddy Leland Vittert. His family lives in Missouri. And we were going to go play golf at a super fancy place outside of St. Louis. And I told him I'm staying in downtown St. Louis. There's a very nice Hyatt, it was Four Seasons in St. Louis. It's a Four Seasons. It's got to be nice. He's like, do not go outside. I was like, for real? He's like, do not walk around downtown St. Louis. Do not do it. You should better stay at a Holiday Inn Express 30 minutes out of town than stay in St. Louis. And sure enough, I have found out that the St. Louis is just a third world city, apparently, given the crime rate. And those of you in St. Louis have sent me some of the wildest emails about the crime in your city, wishing Donald Trump would do a federal takeover of your city, which he cannot do. And this is the city that hired a man and then paid him $229,000 for not having done a day's work as he left to go to Oklahoma. I don't understand public school systems. This is what happens when you have a monopoly funded by taxpayers. You don't have to be responsible with their tax dollars. Now, to the phones we go. Tom, you're going to be up next. Welcome. How are you?
Eric, how are you?
Great. What's going on?
So I've got a buddy of mine who claims to be very purple, and he sends me this text regarding a 2019 act that the Republicans opposed, I think, in entirety regarding gerrymandering. And it was supposed to be some sort of law that was going to outlaw gerrymandering and have every state have an independent commission and redraw the boxes. Do you know anything about this?
I am actually
about something like that.
Just so you know, Charlie sent me the link to the legislation, and when I saw the title of it, the For the People Act of 2019, I knew exactly what the For the People Act was. The For the People Act is a massive left-wing grift. So yes, you're absolutely right. It would prohibit gerrymandering. It would require an independent commission to draw lines, except in states with only one congressional district. Partisan gerrymandering would go away. But also, it would comply with the provisions of the Voting Rights Act that the Supreme Court just threw out as unconstitutional regarding how you have to count non-white voters. It would add additional racial requirements so that once you created a majority-minority district, you could never undo that majority district ever for any reason under the sun, including everyone packed up and moved out of that district. You wouldn't be allowed to change the district. It set the legal findings to make the District of Columbia a state of the United States. It shook up campaign finance reform and would require that political candidates and parties would have to fund themselves without PACs, without a lot of campaign dollars from individuals. It would step up prohibitions on money into politics that Republicans actually don't think work. It would also get rid of voter ID requirements around the country. Any state that has voter ID would be prohibited. It would allow felons to vote in prison. It would allow 16-year-olds to register to vote. Way more than just gerrymandering there.
Got it. Okay, so he kind of misled me in terms of this bill and didn't include everything else. Would you be for some sort of a bill if it just was about gerrymandering and it just was able to redraw all districts? Do you think that Democrats would allow something or approve something like that on its own? Or do you think there's no chance of that at all?
Okay, so I'm going to tell you the Democrats would never agree to a pure gerrymandering bill. And I'll tell you why. So a pure gerrymandering bill would be every state has a nonpartisan commission. And this is the way that those nonpartisan commissions should work. The majority and the minority parties each pick members to be on the commission so that it's an even number of Democrats and Republicans on the commission. They have to draw the district. They have to ignore partisan data points. They can't look at election numbers. They can't look at voter registration. They can't look at race. All they can do is look at people, and they have to draw the congressional districts and the state legislative districts based on compact sizes, keeping communities of interest together. That's what everyone says they want. 538, Nate Silver's website before he left, did a massive analysis of gerrymandering in the country. And the conclusion, and by the way, Nate Silver's a Democrat. Nate Silver's conclusion is that if you did a pure congressional district drawing by nonpartisan commission that did the standard I just said, ignore partisan affiliations, ignore race, compact communities of interest kept together, the Republicans would have a 50-seat advantage in the House of Representatives.
Wow.
Yeah, because here's why. And by the way, again, this is Nate Silver, not me. The Democrats have so gerrymandered their states, it would break those states up, giving Republican seats. Like, for example, if you use my guidelines for Massachusetts, Republicans would have 1 seat in Congress. Right now, they have none. If you used my guidelines in Illinois, Republicans right now have 3 of 17 seats. Republicans would have about 10 of the 17. No, I'm sorry, Republicans would have 7 of the 17 seats. Democrats would have 10. And so it would actually help Republicans if you did nonpartisan gerrymandering, because Democrats have done it worse than the GOP. So, I personally support independent commissions for every state, but I'm not going to be the one to disarm first. If Congress wants to do it, I say do it. Now, I got to tell you about Eden Pure. Great question, by the way, Tom. Great question. Yeah, that the law had way more than just gerrymandering. The Eden Pure Thunderstorm, you can get 3 of them. You can save $200 at EdenPureDeals.com. You go to EdenPureDeals.com. You put in the discount code ERIC3, ERICK3. Here's what you do. You get the Eden Pure Thunderstorm, and they're small. They're portable. You hold them in your hand. You can plug it into the wall, but you can also use a USB cord and power them. Like I've used my laptop before in a hotel room to power the Eden Pure Thunderstorm. No, I take that back. It wasn't a hotel. It was the rental car. It was the rental car. I got a rental car when I went to see my parents, and someone had hot box in the rental car, and it was gross. And you could smell it before you got there. I got my laptop out, plugged up the Eden Pure Thunderstorm to it because it was a car that didn't have a USB outlet, and that sucker cleaned up that car. You would have never have known someone had smoked in the car. You go to EdenPureDeals.com and you put in the discount code ERIC3, ERICK3. You get 3 of them. You save $200, and they just work. They eliminate odors. Now, they get rid of bacteria and viruses. They get rid of pollen, dust, but I use it for odor elimination, and I have used it multiple times, and I keep one in my travel bag, and they work. Hello, it is Eric Erickson here. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, I would love to have you. This is a very short segment because I ran long on the last one. But I do want to reiterate, because I think that progressives tend to have such a high mind of themselves, and they only listen to MSNBC and The View and people who tell them what they want to hear. In the same way that a lot of MAGA people now, they get mad at me for telling the truth. But I just got to tell you, it's the God's honest truth. If we did nonpartisan redistricting across the country, the advantage would be to the GOP, because the Democrats actually have gerrymandered far worse than Republicans across the country. And you don't have to believe me. Nate Silver himself found that analysis when he did it for 538 a few years ago.